Hello, welcome to Fan Made, the podcast where we talk to some of the most exciting names in sports and entertainment media worlds who are diehard passionate fans just like you and me. We're going to break down some of the best game memories, history, fun traditions, all around going to games. I'm your host, Luke Porco. Today I'm honored to talk to a man who's made a name for his diehard Yankee fandom and creating a presence on social media and entertaining content with Bronx Pinstripes, Jack Jokinen. Jack, so great to have you on, man.
Thanks, man. That was a great intro. I feel flattered with that.
Of course. It's well deserved, man. So since this show centers around going to games, first question I always like to ask is, what was the first game you remember attending? And were there any fun memories or stories around that?
First game I remember attending. So I apparently was at opening day the year I was born. So I was born February 85. April 85. It was a walk-off against the White Sox. My dad didn't have a babysitter, so he brought me. An early one that I remember is, I don't remember the exact date, but it was Don Mattingly poster day at Yankee Stadium. And I was, went to the game. I wanted Don Mattingly poster. He's good. It was like, I think it was the Hitman poster where he's like in the suit with the bat. Yeah. Gonna have that up on my wall. And now I'm trying to look up who it was. My dad, we're sitting there. We had a family connection with the team when I was a kid. So we always sat in good seats, went to a lot of games for free. And so it was, it was just like an experience most people don't get. And so I did eventually kind of take it for granted, but at the time, really excited to be there. And I'm trying to remember, I don't think it was Pat Benatar. It's not Cindy. Who sings "Put Another Dime in the Jukebox, Baby"? Sorry, this is who sang that? Nope, that's the Flirts. I'm trying to figure out who did it. So either way, Joan Jett. So my dad goes, "Hey, listen, take your poster and go to that lady, sit in like 2 rows over, and ask her to sign your poster." And I was like, "You're out of your fucking mind, Dad." I'm like 7, so I'm not saying that to him
like that to your dad at 7.
But I'm just like, "What are you talking about, dude? This is my Don Mattingly poster. This is Don Mattingly." Yeah. He's like, "Go do it. Go do it here. Bring this. I don't even know where I got a pen or a marker for." So I just go up to this lady who I have no idea who this is, and I'm just like, "Excuse me, could you sign my poster?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course. Like, sit down." And, so I was sitting there, I'm talking to this lady. She's like, "Oh, do you like baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love baseball. It's my favorite. I love Don Mattingly. I love the Yankees." She was an Orioles fan. I was like, "I don't think they're very good. We're the best." We hadn't done anything yet. It was like 92, 93. So we hadn't done anything. And so I just sat there for like an inning talking to this nice lady. I don't know who she is. She signed a thing. Turned out it was Joan Jett. So yeah, she's a big Orioles fan.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing about that. Yeah, and she's from New York, from Long Island, I think.
I think so. Yeah, but that just happens to be like one of my earliest memories of being at the stadium. It's just sitting there talking to this lady
who happened to be a rock star.
Who happened to be a rock star.
That is so cool. Especially good for your dads, goading you to go ask her, because
I don't have the poster though. It'd be really cool if now
you have the story though, which is
almost 30 years later. I just have a Don Mattingly poster up in my office, but it's autographed by Joan Jett.
That's pretty awesome, and that is a great story that you have. But are there any other exciting, sports milestones that you've witnessed in person, whether it be championships, records broken, or any rarities?
So I have never been to a World Series game. In all the games I've gone to hundreds and hundreds of games, have been to Division Series, have been to wild card games, have been to ALCS games, have never been to a World Series. In 96, I had tickets to Game 7. In 98, I had tickets to Game 6. I was trying to get tickets where they could clinch, and just wasn't working when I was young. And this is when you either waited online, physically online in the South Bronx, or you just called and got busy signal. You just kept trying to call in. So in terms of like being there, I haven't been there for a championship, but in 96 at 11 years old, the Yankees win the World Series, and it was, Charlie Hayes caught that ball, and that was the highlight of my life at that time, because it was the idea that this thing that I started loving, which then went away in 94. And, as a 9-year-old, it's just like, what do you mean? Like millionaires and millionaires just arguing with each other about this, and I don't get any baseball. To then like come back, I'm 10 years old in 95. So like, you're really starting to understand the game more, of like, it's not just T-ball anymore. You kind of understand what's going on. And then to win it in 96 and just, it felt like, the 11 hard years of being a fan had finally paid off. And it was just like, the greatest feeling in the world. And all my friends were Yankee fans. So like going to school the next day was the best. Like we had all done it together.
Yeah, no, I totally get that feeling. And it's always good when, you're old enough to like really appreciate, the winning, like, like, especially like, you're at an age where you can, early like teens or even early, like, 10, 11, like you can really appreciate the World Series as opposed, like, for me, like growing up, like those 90 teams, I was like, 5 or 6, but yeah, no, when you're a little older and can really appreciate the game, it makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah, definitely. I was also like, I was at the Raul Ibanez game, like when he hit the 2 home runs.
Yeah.
So like I was there. That was cool.
Oh, nice.
I was there when Didi hit the 3-run home run in the first inning. I was there when Didi homered against Minnesota in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been to, especially recently, since I started doing stuff with Barstool and then Bronx Pinstripes, it's given me like renewed access, similar to what I had, when I was younger. And so, yeah, it's been fun to be at a lot of those games. Unfortunately, like recently, I've just been at a lot of games where we get our asses kicked by the Astros and Verlander.
Yeah, well, sadly, that seems to be the case most of the time now. But yeah, going back to when you just mentioned like your career with like Barstool and Bronx Pinstripes, talk about like how, as your Twitter handle can tell, and people who know you can follow you originally from the Bronx, and like how talk about like being like a New York guy, like getting into like Barstool, like kind of like before it really like became the monstrosity that it is now. Like,
yeah, so I'm originally from the Bronx. I was born and raised on in a part of the Bronx called City Island. So it's like the opposite side of the Bronx from Yankee Stadium. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a mile and a half by half a mile island.
Yep.
In the Bronx, which is weird. It's weird. It's the weirdest place.
It is.
If I tell people, I have meetings all the time. People, oh, where are you from? Because I live in South Jersey now. But people will be like, oh, you come to New York often? Oh, I'm from here. Oh, where? City Island. They always go, what? People live there? That's weird. And I tell them growing up there in the 90s, it was the weirdest place on earth. But yeah, first day of, so I grew up going to a lot of games. I went to the Bronx High School of Science. So it's like 4 or 5 train stops up from there. Grew up with a family connection going to games. In high school, had a friend whose dad was a cop at Yankee Stadium. And there was there wasn't StubHub. It was just guys selling tickets on the street. So we would just take the train, get off after school, meet up with his dad. His dad would just walk up to a scalper. You scalping these tickets? I got to take them, and just give them to us. And we just go in. So I always grew up like really loving the Yankees, loving, sports in general. Went to Drexel for sport management and thought I'd be the general manager of the Yankees. Crazy that job hasn't come open even once since then. But then I realized like a career in sports probably wasn't going to work out for me because, it's low pay when you first start. I had loans and stuff. So I started doing comedy. I started doing stand-up because I realized I was going to be presenting my entire life. So, I work in the tech industry and I do a lot of like client relationship stuff. So I was just like, what? If I can do stand-up, I can do anything. So let me do stand-up. Started doing stand-up. If you're familiar with the Are You Garbage podcast?
Yes, I've heard
those guys hosted the first show that I ever did. And so I was doing that in Philly, and I moved back to New York. And the first day of kindergarten, I sat next to a guy named Kevin Clancy. And so he was doing the Barstool thing, and we've been good friends for 33 years now.
Wow.
And so when I moved back to New York, I would try to support him in what he was doing with Barstool, send him articles, or like occasionally, because we each had a lot, like, hey, you got a joke for this, and I'd help write some jokes. And he just said, like, hey, I'm looking for a Yankee guy. who's not looking to do this full time, because they had other Yankee people who did it. After 3 articles, they're like, can I have 50 grand a year? And I was just like, yeah, like, at first I said no. I was like, maybe I'll go to one game for free one time. I have probably been to like 200 games since then, all for free, thanks to that connection. So I just started off like in the old Barstool of like everyone's remote in different cities, just trying to write funny things about the Yankees while providing like a little bit of analysis and trying to build up that fan base. And I did that till the end of 2017. In 2017, Hubs came on board, and he was looking for a career in this. He went to like journalism school, great guy. It was becoming pretty clear that like my career and where Barstool was going weren't aligning, and like I was just too far along in one career to make that jump. And it's not like they were dying. I don't want anyone to misconstrue it. They weren't like begging me to come work at Barstool. It just it wasn't going to be a fit. So kind of introduced Hubs to a bunch of people. He works his ass off. So I made that introduction, and then I was out. I wasn't going to do anything anymore. And then 2018, I just missed making content, missed talking Yankees, missed talking to people. And really I used to do a web series, Stadium Eats, where I'd eat like all the new items at Yankee Stadium and some other stadiums like around the country. And I got to travel a little bit to do that. I missed doing that, and I wanted somewhere to distribute it. So that's how I ended up with Bronx Pinstripes, because they were going to distribute it. Then they got me doing another podcast that I still do called George's Box. Yep. And now I have kids. So COVID hit. I have 2 kids now, so I don't have as much free time to get to as many Yankee games and eat as much food and all that stuff. So I don't do those videos anymore. But yeah, just kind of like looking for the next opportunity. It's a good creative outlet for me. I think a lot of people get into this of like either making a podcast or internet content, with just like, well, where's the money? And like the money doesn't come right away. Just focus on good content and things like that, and then opportunities come. And that's just kind of the way I've gone about it.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's a great story, and definitely relatable. Because it's good that you were able to still continue the passion of like talking about the Yankees and sports, but still having that stability of a career alongside it too, and being able to bounce both. And that's huge. And I was just about to mention the Stadium Eats, and it's a very entertaining content, and I always loved watching you do it. And with that in mind, what's the best food, your go-to after trying all those foods at Yankee Stadium? What's become your go-to food or drink at
Number
Yankee
one
Stadium?
Thing at Yankee Stadium. So for the longest time, the pound for pound champion was the Lobel's sandwich at Yankee Stadium, and it's good. Like it's always going to be there. It's great. But it had to be maybe like 2019. I think they unveiled at City Winery, first base line, for 100 level, the Burrata Burger, which is a Pat LaFrida burger patty. See, 4 years later, I remember the burger patty with fresh burrata on top of it, and then they have like some arugula and stuff you don't really need. But and so that is my I don't get to as many games as I used to, but if I'm there, and especially if I'm not like wrangling a kid, and I can take the time to actually eat a burger at a game, that's what I'm going to. Nice. But there's so much good stuff at the stadium. Yeah. I think I started doing that because when the stadium first opened, people were like, "Can you believe there's sushi?" And it's like, it should be the best experience you can get. Like if I'm already going to pay $100 just to get in, give me the option to also spend more money and buy more things.
Yeah, because you're right. Because that was something that was a culture shock to everybody. Because I remember my first time walking into the new stadium, I see like a fruit and vegetable cart. I'm like what is going on? But yeah, no, you're right that we weren't used to the high, top tier items, but you're right, they should be there considering how much you pay. But I gotta say that burrata burgers, I didn't even know it existed, but now next time at the stadium I'm gonna try it.
It's a number one. Like as soon as I had it, and now I was fortunate enough that the Yankees saw the content I was making and were like, we want everything I ate after maybe the first 6 episodes was specifically made to be on camera. Like they specifically made it for me. And so I was lucky in that everything I get is the freshest of the fresh, but I've gone when I'm not filming and when nobody knows that I'm there, and it's amazing. I said at the time, because I lived, I used to go to bars. It was like, if my local bar, if this was this would be my go-to. I'd get it every time.
Nice. Yeah. No, it sounds great. And as you know, like you love Yankee Stadium and being trying all the food there and just being around the whole vibe. But what's the best stadium other than Yankee Stadium? It could be any sport, not just baseball. But what's your favorite stadium outside of Yankee Stadium?
So I'm a baseball guy. I don't really go like I have I'm a Giants fan. I have friends who have Jets tickets or Eagles tickets, and like after mid-October, I won't go to a game. Like I don't want to be outside in the cold unless it's the playoffs for baseball. So I am primarily a baseball guy. I really love Camden Yards. I've been going to Camden Yards for years. When I was at Barstool, I became friends with Eric Arditi, who's the RDT. He's the Orioles guy there. And so my wife and I have gone down every year for probably 8-9 years. We go down to Baltimore because the Yankees will have a Saturday night game like pretty much every time. So we get a group this year I think it was like 8 of us. Some years it's like 20 of us. We do like a boozy brunch and a bar crawl, and we go to Pickles across the street and go to the stadium. And it's a beautiful stadium. They have some good food options there. I haven't been in a while, but I also love Wrigleyville. Being inside Wrigley, I don't really care. Okay. I like to go to the rooftops across the street because you can, for like $70 or what. It's been a while since I've done it, so the price has probably gone up. But it is like all you can eat, all you can drink, beer, wine. So it's just like kind of a good, like you don't have to do much to get the stuff that you need. You have the same sight lines. I know Wrigleyville's changed a lot in the last couple of years. It's become like more corporate, I'd say. I don't really mind that. But like the Wrigleyville atmosphere, there's just so many bars there to go to that I've always enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, no, I've never been out there, but that's always been something that's caught my eye for sure. And speaking of bar scenes outside stadiums, I always kind of wish, because I'm noticing the rooftop, I always kind of wish Yankee Stadium had that, because you do have like, some rooftop bars at like Billy's across the street, but like, but obviously you can't see inside the stadium really. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, what's your like, go to like outside the stadium? Are you a Billy's guy, stands? Like,
yeah, so I'm a Billy's guy. So there's like a few ways to do it, and I did all the bars on Stadium Eats. So like people love stands, right? Arrow stands because it's a classic, whatever. I think like stands is a great place to watch two firemen fight each other while wearing MAGA hats. Like, because I've seen that before. And it's just like very like it's very tight in there.
Yeah,
and
very much so.
The bathrooms are impossible. Mm-hmm. So I don't really love that. I maybe 2 years ago I got a drink there or something like that, but I don't really go there often.
Yeah.
The dugout is good if you're in your 20s and you're on a budget and you want, it used to be like $4 PBRs, $4 Coors Lights.
It's great.
Like, great. Go do that. They have a back door you can go out on and smoke now. They have a window to Taco Bell right there. So that's like that's a really good atmosphere. My only issue with the dugout is it always smells like a pool. Like they just like if you go to like an indoor pool at a YMCA, and so it's just been chlorine in that room for 30 years, you can just tell they've used too much bleach.
Yeah.
If I need to eat before the game, I go to the Yankee Tavern and sit at the bar. Yep. Still a great Reuben. I had them. I was eating when I was a teenager, and so now 20 years later, still great. Also a good like if you get a shot there, like you get a real shot. A lot of the place around the stadium, you get those very like little plastic cups. Like they give you a real. It's like a shot and a half, 2 shots if you get a shot there. And I've spent some time at La Bodega, which I don't think I'm welcome there anymore because I filmed the Stadium Eats there. I didn't say where it was, but it upset people. Have you ever been?
I've never been, but I know about it. I kind of want to check it out.
Yeah, there were some people who were just like kind of unhappy, but like if you Google La Bodega, like the address is on the internet, like you can.
No, I know where it is, but I just
I'm just saying, like I shouldn't get the hate that I got for that. And then, but I go to Billy's. I used to go to Billy's when. It was part of it was a bowling alley.
Oh yeah.
So like I still, I love Billy's. It's big, it's open, it's you can move around. There's multiple bar options. They have the girls with the beer tubs if you're just trying to quickly get a beer. Joey, the owner, has been very good to me over the years, so I really like going there. They got the outside. You go smoke a cigarette if you need. So yeah, like that's kind of my breakdown of those places. The Hard Rock has like some pretty good food. I did some promotional stuff with the Hard Rock before, but like you're kind of still in Yankee Stadium already, and like if you're
that's what I feel too.
The one thing I haven't done a lot of is next to Billy's, there's that bar, like Twins Bar or whatever. And it's twins who owned Billy's. Yeah. They owned Billy's. They sold it to like their cousins. And then they opened the bar next door. So there is kind of a family beef there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Because I do remember that. And I do remember them like having like a gyro stand or something for one season. And it was right next between Billy's and there. But anyway. Yeah, as another question I have is hypothetically, if you could go to, it doesn't even have to be a Yankee game, but hypothetically, if you could go to any baseball game with any three people, famous, not famous, who would it be, and what game what stadium would you go to, and what three people?
If I could go anywhere with any three people,
they could be famous, not
that's
famous, alive, dead.
I mean, they're going to be famous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably going to be Yankee Stadium, like in a suite. I think like the suite experience at Yankee Stadium is the best. It's been probably like 2 years since I've been in a suite, so I should probably try to get back. And here's the interesting one. Like if you think about who you want to go to Yankee game with, who you want to hang out with, like easily because of my age, you think Derek Jeter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing, especially as I got like closer to the Yankees, like being at Barstool. I don't know that I ever want to meet Derek Jeter. Because I don't know that he is going to like me. Like he's such a cool, calm, collected guy. And I think the second I meet him and hug him would throw him off a lot. I have a friend who's an agent who used to be a bat distributor. And so he did a lot of big league players. And during Jeter's last season, he got introduced to him on the field. Like one of his players was on the visiting team, introduced him. And he was just like, hey, this is Alan. He's like, hey, Alan. Nice to... And Derek Jeter was like, hey, how's it going? Derek, nice to meet you. And he's just like, yeah, dude, I know who you are. Like, you just imagine meeting Derek Jeter and he tells you his name. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'd suck it up and I'd go to a game with Derek Jeter.
Yes.
If I'm just going to do, because it's a Yankee game, I'm going to do like Yankees.
That's fine.
I'm going to do Derek Jeter, David Cone, and, it used to be David Wells or like Paul O'Neill, but like they're very anti-vax. So that's concerning. I don't know. Maybe A-Rod. I'd like to be in a room with Jeter and A-Rod
I was just about
at the
to
same
say
time. And David Cohn's going to be drunk. So
yeah,
we're going to have a great time.
So either way, you'll have a good time with him. But that could either go horribly wrong or amazing, like no in between, really. But
and I'm kind of here for it either way because it won't go horribly wrong for me. It'll be horribly wrong for them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like you'll just be watching with Coney, just tossing back the drinks and just laughing. But yeah, and as somebody born and raised in the Bronx who's been going, like as you said, been going to Yankee games his whole life, what are if you were to meet somebody who had never been to a Yankee game in their life, and like what are some tips and tricks that you would recommend to them, or just like some traditions they could get into at going to the games?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to bring a lot of people to their first games, like over the years, whether it be like in high school, you date a girl who's a Mets fan, so you bring her first game. My wife had never been, brought her. The one thing I will say, I love the new stadium. The old stadium, it was old. The one thing that we are missing is, if you remember in the old stadium, you used to come out of the tunnel. So it was like you're in this dark, dingy thing. You're in the South Bronx. There's not a lot of good light, and you come out, and it's the greenest grass you've ever seen in the middle of the Bronx. So that's a big thing that I miss from that experience, because there just is there's not even like a good angle where it's like, if I wanted to find like the one place to come in and do that, it doesn't really exist, because I've hunted for that feeling for, since the stadium opened. Yeah, like my tips are take the subway, don't drive. Take the subway so you can tie one on. Get you can bring water into the stadium. You can bring sealed water into the stadium. You can also bring in outside food. Not a lot of people know that. You could just go to McDonald's across the street or Subway, bring that in, or one of the food carts, if you're on a budget. But I think, counter to that, I think my biggest tip is, like, if you're going to go to a Yankee game, whether it's you got to save up for it, and I understand everyone's in different economic situations, like, do it up. Do it up. Go eat, drink, really, like, take the whole thing in. It's to not do that is like going to Vegas and staying at, like, the Hooters hotel. Like, it's a waste of a trip.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, check out the bars. Watch what you say to people, because you never know, like, if the person you're talking to is someone from Kansas City who just happens to work at a marketing firm that, like, had an extra ticket, so they're there, or that's a construction worker from the Bronx who's going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
So, like, be very careful about that. If you see someone, like, in Tim's in August, don't bump into them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, go, be respectful. Have a blast, go to Billy's, check out all the bars. Like, if you get there early enough, if you get there like 2 hours early, go get a drink at, like, every bar you can, see the different atmospheres. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite place to go. I wish the team was better, so I would have gone to more games this year.
Yeah, no, it is a magical, fun place, and like you said, it's only better when they win, and wish they were doing a little more of that now. But yeah, and Jack, thanks so much for the time today and all the fun stories you had. And those are some great fun times. And do you have anything before I let you go? Do you have anything to plug or promote?
Not necessarily. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at JJ from the Bronx. I like to think I'm a decent follow, although as we're getting out of Yankee season, it starts to shift more towards, like, politics, probably. Not everyone loves that. And yeah, follow me and keep an eye out. In December 2019, I went globally viral because a dog broke into my house and I save it. And the internet gave me $42,000 for her bills. And I gave that money away to fund other adoptions. And I have a children's book about that coming out in September of 2024 called The Stray Dog for Christmas. So we'll see. If you're still, as I'm doing promotion, I'd love to come back and I can come up with different answers if you're asking the same questions.
Sure. Yeah. No, this was, a great interview, and do check out Jack JJ on Twitter and follow that story as well too. And there you have it. He's Jack Jokinen, also known as JJ, and he's fan made. Thanks for Jack for joining. Thanks for everybody listening. Please give us a follow, like, subscribe on Instagram and on YouTube at fan_made_podcast, and on X, also known as Twitter, at fanmade with LP.